It's TK Friday, and today in the Joy of Editing, it's time for another full edit. Stay tuned. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. Welcome to TK Friday. Today, it'll be another full edit, and today's image comes to us from Asif Masood. I'm entitling this one, Crystal Shore. Now, if you want to give this edit a try out for yourself, you can download the image and the PDF notes. Go to the description of this video, click on more, scroll down. You will find Dropbox links for the PDF notes as well as the image. And if you have an image you would like me to edit on a TK Friday, scroll down further. You'll find a Contact Me link. Click on that link, contact me, and we can discuss doing one of your images on a TK Friday. By the way, if you don't yet own the TK9 plugin for Photoshop, I'll have a link for it in the description right below this video. You can click on that link. It'll take you over to Tony Kuiper's web store, and there you can save 15% off your entire purchase. The TK9 plugin for Photoshop training videos. Just use my promo code DK15, and that will get you 15% off your entire purchase. When you use that code, I make a small commission. You save money. So thank you for using my code and enjoy the savings. Well, let's go ahead and dive right in. I start out always in Lightroom. I use a linear profile. I want the image to go into Photoshop as flat as I can get it. I just make some basic adjustments here. I did a bit of a crop on this image, a decent crop actually. And then for detail, just a little bit of sharpening. And as far as lens corrections, I always check on remove chromatic aberration as well as enable profile corrections. And then under transform, I clicked on auto just to make sure the waterline was nice and straight. And then at this point, I just right click on the image, go to edit in, click on edit in Photoshop 2024. And now here we are inside of Photoshop, ready to develop this image using Photoshop and the TK9 plugin for Photoshop. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in every TK Friday. I really appreciate you. And also, if you do me a big favor, if you're not yet a subscriber, please subscribe to this channel. It really helps it to grow. I'd really appreciate that if you do that for me. And don't forget to like and share and leave comments and questions. I always like to start out my edits by bringing some balance and contrast to the image. And on this image, I will do a separate balance and contrast for the foreground and one for the sky. The first thing I want to do is save out the foreground, the sky, and this piece of an iceberg as channels. And I like to call this setting ourselves up for success because we'll be using these different channels in this edit. If you try this edit at home, make this edit your own. You don't have to do everything I do. I'm just giving you my interpretation of this image, but feel free to alter it and do whatever you like to it. My job on TK Fridays for me is to really help you get the most out of the TK9 plugin for Photoshop. So let's go ahead and save out the sky as a channel. Hold your Command or Control key down and click on this button on the combo or CX panel, and that will save your sky out as a channel, as you can see right there. Then hold that Command or Control key down again and double click it. That saves out a foreground channel. And then what I want you to do is get the object selection tool. And what we're going to do in rectangle mode is just draw a rectangle around that iceberg or that piece of an iceberg. And then we're going to click this button on the combo or CX panel. And now we can go ahead and name this, let's just call it ice, and click OK. And now you'll see that ice is saved out as a channel. Don't forget to download this PDF notes. They're my free gift to you, and they give you step-by-step everything I do in this edit. And now what we want to do is come to the multi-mask panel and click on the luminosity mask button, and I want to click on midtones 3, and we have a midtones 3 mask, as you can see. And all that does is protect shadows and highlights from clipping. In other words, losing detail in the really light highlights and the really dark shadows. And then we're going to output that to a color grading tool. We'll click this button right here on the multi-mask panel, and I use the color grading tool to do the balance and contrast and any color grading if needed. I won't color grade the foreground and sky, but I will do the ice, and that's going to be really cool. No pun intended. Or is there? Here's my color grading layer with the midtones 3 mask. I'll use that for the foreground. Now I need one for the sky. So what we can do is come to our combo or CX panel, click this button to duplicate that layer. And now what I need to do is intersect the sky with this Midtones 3. To do that, hold your Command or Control key down and click on the Layer Mask Calculator button on either the combo or CX panel. That'll keep this mask calculator open because it does auto close. When you Command or Control click it, it'll stay open until you click this X. And now what we'll do is click on Sky and we'll click X for intersect. And now you can see we have the sky intersected with Midtones 3. And now we can click on the first color grading layer. We're going to use this for foreground, so we'll click on foreground and we'll do the same thing. Click the X and we'll intersect the foreground with the Midtones 3 mask. I don't need the layer mask calculator right now, so I can click the X to close it. Now, it's always a good habit to rename your layers. You can rename color grading layers, but the thing is, you got to make sure you have TK in parentheses or the color grading tool won't work. And it doesn't matter if TK is uppercase or lowercase, it'll still work. I did go ahead and rename these layers, so we're on foreground. So we're going to start with balance and contrast. Let me start out with shadows. And I love the color grading tool. If you click on the shadow button, you can just work with the shadows or midtones or highlights. Really nice. So let me go ahead and darken up the shadows. I'll drag this slider to the left. When you drag the slider, you don't see a change until you release the click of your mouse. And I'll take this over to right there, -45. And look at that beautiful shadow contrast. And now we'll click on midtones. I will open up those midtones and I'm going to drag this to the right. And believe it or not, I'm going to take it to right there, +45. -45 in shadows, +45 for midtones. Did I plan it that way? No, I just stopped when I thought it looked good. And now I'll click on highlights and open up the highlights a little bit. And I'll take that over to right there, +38. Now let me shut this layer off. Here's before and here is after. And now we could click on the top layer, the sky layer, and we'll go ahead and give it some balance and contrast. This time I'll start with midtone, so I'll click on the midtone button, and I just want to darken the midtones slightly, not much, down to like right there, a -4. And now let's go to the highlights. I'll click on the highlight button and I just want to pull back on the highlights. So I'm going to drag this to the left over to right there, a -33. Now let me shut this layer off. Here's before and here is after. Again, before and after. And now let's check an overall before and after. I'll click on my before after button on my combo panel. You'll also find it on the CX panel. Here's before and here's after. And so far, so good. I really like the balance and contrast of the image. And then what I do is study the image and try to figure out what I need to do next. After the initial balance and contrast, I usually like to try a midtone contrast adjustment, which only adds contrast in the midtones, which could be quite beautiful. It's not always helpful, but let's see if it is on this image. Photoshop as well as TK9 are really powerful products, and you know what? There's many ways of doing the same thing with Photoshop and TK9. I normally use a luminosity mask, but this time, let's use Blend If. Don't be afraid of Blend If because TK9 makes Blend If really easy to use. I need to get to my multi-mask panel, but right now this color grading tool is in the way. I'll click the X to close it. Nothing changes on the color grading layers. I'm going to click this button to give myself a curves adjustment layer. And now for the Blend If. So we're going to come to the multi-mask panel, click on this Edit Blend If button. Now remember, I want to work in midtones 3. We have 3 midtones, midtones 1, 2, and 3. They're all midtones, but this is a weaker midtone, a little bit stronger midtone, and a very strong midtone. I'm going to click on midtones 3. That's the strongest of the midtones. And now come to the properties panel. There's our curves adjustment. All we need to do is come to presets, click on the drop down and click on strong contrast. And I really like that. Let me shut off this layer. Here's before the midtone contrast. Here is after. It's a little strong, so I'm going to click right here and highlight this field. Hold my shift key down and click the down arrow one time. And I'm just going to go to 90%. Just take the edge off of that just a little wee bit. After a midtone contrast adjustment, I always feel the midtones get a little bit on the dark side, so we can bring those midtones back up, lighten them up a little bit, and here's how we'll do it. Now, I need to get to my multi-mask panel, and right now the Edit Blend If is in the way, so click the X. Nothing changes on Blend If. And now what we'll do is get another curves adjustment layer. We'll click this button, and now we'll click on the Edit Blend If button, and this time I want the gentlest of the midtones, so I'll click midtones 1, and now we'll click on the Screen Blend Mode button, and see how that lightens the midtones. Now it's way too light, obviously, so I'm going to click right here, highlight this field, hold my shift key down. I'll tap the down arrow while I'm holding shift. Here's one time. Here's 2. We're at 80%. I'll do it again. Here's 70. Here's 60. And here is 50. And 50 is where I want it. And if 50 is still too light for you, you could keep going down. Again, this is your edit and do what you want, okay? But now let me shut off this layer. Here's before and here's after. Now, I really enjoy this blue color that we're starting to bring out in this ice from our edits so far, but I'd like to bring a little bit more out, and I'll show you how we do that. We use a color grading tool to color grade that ice. Now, right now, my edit blend diff panel is in the way, so I'll click the X. Again, nothing changes on the edit blend diff layers, and now we'll click on our color grading tool, and then come to the Combo or CX panel and click on your layer mask calculator button and click ice and click this button to apply it. Nothing happens so far, but we are targeting the ice only. But now we'll color grade. So click on the midtone button. We're just going to color grade the midtones. And you see this button right here. It's a picker tool. When I click on it, a color picker comes up. And what I want to do is sample this blue in the ice right here. And there it is on the color picker. Click OK. And just like that, you've color graded your ice. Now, is that cool or what? Let me shut this layer off. Here's before and here is after, and I really like it. If it's too strong, you can pull back on the layer opacity. If you want it stronger, you could move this puck out here, like maybe click right here. I'm not going to do that because that is perfect for me. But this is my artistic vision for this image. It may not be for yours. You may want to leave this step out. It's totally up to you. I'm just showing you how to do things, as I said earlier with the TK9 plugin for Photoshop, but I love this. And now at this point, I'm studying my image and I am looking like right here. This side of the water, I'd like to get it to match this side a little more because this light is drawing my eye a little bit. So let's see what we can do here. I will grab an object selection tool. So I'll click this button. I'm in the rectangle mode and I'm going to try just to select this area right here. Let's see if we can do it. So I'll just drag a rectangle around here. And yeah, we've selected that. I really like that. I think it's going to work. I'll use a color grading tool again. And this time, if you want to add another color grading tool, click the plus and the mask will go right with it because we made that selection first and you could see it right there. And now let's see if we can darken this and match this color over here. To match that color, let's click that picker tool again. And you notice I made a mistake. It says no specific tonal range chosen. Do this and it tells me what to do. I have to click one of these shadow, midtone, or highlight buttons. I'll just click OK. All right, thanks for helping me, TK9. I'll click the midtone button, and now I'll click the picker tool. And I'll sample this color like right here and click OK. And see how that matches that color over there? That's pretty nice. It's a little too light, so what I'll do is just darken this up. I'll use this brightness slider, and I'll drag it to the left. And I'll take it over to right there, a -10. Now let me shut this off and look in this area. Here's before and here is after. Again, before and after. And now our eye is not going there as much. It's balanced out. Now I think a good technical term for what we did just right here is called color transfer, because we transferred this color from here over to here using the color grading tool. You'll find the color grading tool a great help whenever you need to match some color. Now for the next step, I'd like to do a little bit of contrast by making the sky a little smoother compared to the nice sharpness that we have in the ice. I think it'll look really good. And I did this last week on a sky, and that is to use a clarity action, but invert it and just slightly smooth out the sky. It'll add a nice little bit of contrast. Here's what we need to do. Come to your TK actions. If your actions aren't open, click your TK button on either the combo or CX panel. Click on the clarity action. A high pass filter dialog comes up. I'll change the radius by dragging the slider to the right, not too much, over to right there, 20.4. And you'll notice we pulled out some detail in this image, but I want the opposite of that. I'm going to click OK. All we need to do is invert this clarity layer. And to do that, on the Combo or CX panel, click the invert button. And now you can see the image has gotten very smooth. I only want to smooth out the sky. Now remember, at the beginning of the edit, we set ourselves up for success. We saved out an ice channel. Here's all we need to do. Come up to the Combo or CX panel, click on your layer mask calculator, click on sky, click this button to apply it. And now look at the sky. I'm going to shut this layer off. Here's before and here's after. See, just that little bit of smoothness, and I really like this. And now back to studying the image. Now, I'd like to draw the attention of the viewer to this ice, this beautiful blue ice. And to do that, we can close off the bottom of the image and the top. And to do that, we'll rely on a blend mode, a multiply blend mode. And here's how we get it. Now, right now, my color grading tool is in the way of the multi-mask panel. I'll click the X, and now I'll click on the curves adjustment layer. I'm only using it for a blend mode. I'll click on this button on my combo panel or CX panel, whichever you have open. That puts a hide all layer mask on it. Click this button right here to put a multiply darkening blend mode here. Grab your gradient tool and make sure it's set for linear gradient and make sure reverse is checked on. You can click this drop down right here and open up your basics folder and click this button right here, giving us a white to black gradient. And so what we'll do is with our gradient tool, we're going to click right here and drag this on up to like right about here. Now see how this just moves around when I shift left to right with my mouse. If you hold your shift key down, you'll constrain that. And I just want to drag it like right up to here. And now let's call this a diamond. It's like a window blind effect. See when I drag this up, how it works kind of like a window blind. That's why I like to call it that. And I just want to drag it up to about right about here. It gets darker here and lighter as it goes up to the top. Now we see this line here. If we don't want to see the line, we can click on the curves adjustment icon right here and that goes away. And now I know this is way too strong down here. So I'm going to click on the opacity field right here, hold my shift key down and I'll tap my down arrow while I'm holding shift. There's one time, 2, we're at 80%. I'm going to take it here to 70%. Now it's still really dark here, but watch what we can do here. We can use blend diff to help us. So we'll click on our edit blend diff button. And now you see these row of buttons down here. This is no darks 1. If I click it, you notice how this gets lighter, but watch when I click no darks 2. That is perfect. Now let me shut this off. Here is before and here is after. Now, if you need to go and readjust this, what we can do is click on the layer mask and that line comes back up. So then we could click in this diamond and maybe, readjust this however you want it. And let's say we want it maybe right about there. Now, if I click on the curves icon, we can see it without the line. Now, here's before and here's after. And that's what I'm going for. I like that. We're going to close off the top, but I was comparing my two edits and I noticed that my ice looked a little different than my previous edit. And I thought, oh, I forgot a step. So what we're going to do is click on this layer where I adjusted the ice. And if I shut this off, you can see this is where I changed the color of the ice, right? Now I used the color grading tool and you could tell by that TK in parenthesis. So right now my edit blend diff panel's in the way. I'll click the X and now we'll click on the color grading tool. And what I want to do is adjust the highlights. So I'll click on the highlight button and I want to open up those highlights, bring those highlights out. And I'm going to drag this to the right. See them starting to light up and I'll take it over to right there, plus 25. Now let me shut this layer off. Here's before and here's after. I knew there was something I was missing. I thought I better go back and look at my previous edit and I forgot that step, but it's in your notes. Don't worry about it. Now let's close off the top of the image. So I'm going to come back to the top layer and click on it and now it's active. So what I need to do is get rid of this color grading tool. I'll click the X. And now let's do the same thing I did for this layer. I'm going to click on the curves adjustment button to get a curves adjustment layer. Click on the black mask to hide what I'm going to do. Click on the multiply blend mode for darkening. And now I need to grab my gradient tool. So I'll click on this gradient tool right here. Everything is set the same. I'm on linear gradient. Reverse is checked and I'm white to black. We'll click right here. I'm going to drag down to somewhere right around here. I'm going to hold my shift key down to constrain that to say like right there. And then with a diamond, I'm going to drag this up a little bit to maybe right here. Now it's too strong. Now remember, if we don't want to see the line, we can click on the curves icon. And what I want to do is click right here on opacity, this field to highlight it. I'm going to hold my shift key down and I'm going to tap this one time. That takes me to 90. I'll tap it again. Now I'm at 80, 70, and 60. And I think 60 is good. So let me shut this off. Here's before and here's after. Now the top of the image is closed off. A couple more steps and we're done. What I want to do now is bring out some texture in this ice. So to do that, hold your Command or Control key down, click this button on the Commodore CX panel. It stamps all your layers together, and you'll notice we have a smart object. Now I only want to work in the ice. I will be sending this into the Camera Raw filter, but before that, let's click on our layer mask calculator on either the Commodore CX panel. Let's click on ice and click this button to apply it. And now we have the ice selected, and you can tell by the mask. And now we need to send this into the Camera Raw filter. Now right now you'll notice the mask is selected. If I would hit the ACR button and launch the Camera Raw filter, which I'll do, you'll notice we'll send the mask in there, and we don't want the mask. I'll just click cancel. So make sure you click on the image icon and now click ACR, and now you'll send the image in. And what I want to do is adjust the texture, and you're going to find that in the effects group. If the effects group isn't open, just click right here on effects, and then just take the texture slider and drag it to the right. See the texture starting to pop out on the image over the entire image. But don't worry about that. It will only affect the ice because we made a mask when we were back in Photoshop. I don't want to go too crazy and add too much texture, so I'm going to pull that texture back a bit. I'm going to take it to right there, plus 27, and click OK. If you'll look at the ice, you may not see this. It depends on the compression of the YouTube video, but let me shut this off. Here is before, and now here is after. And I hope you can see the extra texture that I brought out. If you try this edit, I guarantee you will see that texture brought out on the ice. And now for the last step, we're going to add an overall vignette. So if your TK actions aren't open, click your TK button and then click vignette, the basic vignette, the first one. The Gaussian blur dialog comes up, just click OK. And now here you can see the vignette. I'll shut this off. Here's before and here's after. I don't know if you can see that, but it is getting into the ice. Let me shut this off. Here's before and here's after. It's darkening the edges of the ice a little bit. So here's what we can do. We can come to the Commodore CX panel, click on the layer mask calculator button, click on ice, and click minus to subtract it. And now I'll shut this off. Here's before and here's after. Now it's staying off the ice. And if we want to see what this mask looks like, we can click the double arrow button, and you can see the ice, it's taken out of there, so it's not going to get darkened. And now let me click the double arrow again, and now we can see here's before and here's after. Now it's too dark around the edges, so what we'll do is use Edit Blend If to help us. So we'll click the Edit Blend If button. We could try No Darks 1. I'll click No Darks 1. That helps. And let's click No Darks 2. There's No Darks 2, and I like that. And now I would just like to increase the opacity a little bit, so I'm going to click right here and highlight the field 30%. Hold my Shift key down. Let's go 1, 2. And that takes us to 50%. And now let me shut off the vignette. Here is the before, and here is the after. Now we come to the part where we can do an overall before and after because the edit is done at this point. So let's come to the Commodore CX panel and click the before after button. We started out here and we end up here. And I'm really happy with the way this edit turned out, and I do hope that you give it a try. Well, there it is, everyone. Another TK Friday comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed today's full edit. I really enjoyed this image. If you enjoyed today's tutorial, please give it a like and share it with your friends. And if you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe. Click that bell notification icon, click all so that you'll receive all notifications. And then every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll get notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. I'll see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing.